So I want to just jump in and ask you guys or give a little background. So we came to you back in what, February? We came to your house in February. As I mentioned before you came on, people were asking how we find our couples. Leslie, you and I had just been in the DMs a lot. And so, and I wanted to go to Oakland or the Oakland, San Francisco area. So I was like, let's do this. Let's make this happen. So we came up there. We did not have any expectations. And I know you all shared a story, which we saw on Saturday night, which was the first time you ever shared it. So I want to hear your reaction to seeing it and really your feelings going in. Leslie, you were holding your breath. I was holding my breath for different reasons. I'm gonna close this door because I hear my children. So I would love to hear y'all's reaction.
I just want to add to that about you reaching out to us. 2 years ago, I sent you a message and I just looked at it about how we can be on the show. So
really?
Manifestation right
for
there.
Sure. Absolutely. Actually, can we take it back to like when Joe started telling the story in the interview? How did you feel, Leslie?
I was super emotional for a number of reasons. Number one, I was pregnant, so those hormones were like all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, I was like blown away with how Joe was like expressing everything and just hearing his side of the story.
Mm-hmm.
For me, and I wanted to cry. I was like holding back a lot of tears. Actually, on Saturday when we were watching it, we both were like, whoo, it was like, and we had a number of family members like calling us saying, it was so touching and they didn't know that it was going on either. And I just want to say too, like, thank you to all of our followers who were so non-judgmental in the comments the other day regarding the episode. And it's refreshing to hear that a lot of people go through the same things that we kind of are holding back and not telling, our story that could actually be helping another couple.
Right. For anyone who didn't see it, just a little recap, I shared that after, do you want to do, I don't want to say it wrong. But I would just say you guys shared that the police raided your house very unexpectedly, unwarranted, and it sent you both down a path of not really talking about the emotions that came from it, both being confused about why it happened, worried it could happen again. And this was how many years ago?
9
years ago.
And, when you shared it, we didn't know that. We didn't have any expectations. I could see that, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong, that like Joe, for you, it was important to get it out. It was important to share and to talk about that aspect of how that affected your marriage, your relationship. And I could also see, Leslie, how uncomfortable it made you. And it was challenging, even putting it together because I wanted to be delicate with both of you, but also understanding that like this sort of thing happens to us as Black people. Like, to me, this is Black love. How do we get through the microaggressions and the macro, right? And so, I hope, that you were ultimately happy with seeing it the way that it was put together, because I felt like your journey to understanding each other through that and through the telling of it, the retelling of it, right? I think you brought things for you guys. So, so when you watched, did you talk about anything new after this weekend?
When we watched, right when it was over, we hugged each other, and then it was kind of good to see us talking about it 7 to 8 months later, because we did forget some of the things that we talked about, even though we know the story, we lived the story, but to kind of see it again and the refresher of how we edited everything, we were like, damn, like that really happened. The surprising part came immediately after, when I got like an overwhelming amount of responses from my family that they were very emotional about it, because they didn't know that I went through that. And then even like my mom, she knew I went through it, but she didn't know the details. So she was more like happy that I was able to kind of get it out without being frustrated or emotional about it. But I wasn't expecting so many friends and family to send me text messages or call and say, man, like that teared me up. I wasn't expecting that at all. And but it did feel good to kind of know that it is helping other people who have been in situations similar to that. And now they're no longer afraid to kind of go out and express that. Because one thing I did notice, they were like, dude, you went on national television and just spoke about this. And a lot of people don't speak about mental health issues, even in the dark, let alone going on TV. You know, so I didn't look at it like that when we were interviewing. I really didn't. So it really brought a lot of like, oh wow, like a lot of understanding to the positive message that was said in the show.
Right.
And from our standpoint, show wise, right? Like, I appreciate being able to showcase the fact that like there are people dealing with stuff that they're born with, right? Like some people are born, you know, dealing with being bipolar, with like medical conditions, right? And then there's trauma that can happen when you're a child, that can happen when you've grown, that can happen when you've already been in a marriage for however many years with kids. And then it's like figuring out, unpacking it and figuring out how to connect with your partner as a result of it.
Right.
And so I just appreciate you guys, you know, for representing that part of like a shift in you as individuals, in your relationship.
Right.
One of the things, Joe, that you talked about a lot was, you know, you're not someone that opens up,
Right.
You know, to anybody.
Right.
So how, if at all, has that changed since the day we sat there with you and you guys talked about this for the first time in a while, and then even this weekend?
It's changed a lot, actually. I've been more open since February.
Actually, the day you left.
In a year. Like we had like a record of just being very open and not arguing. From probably March to
the whole pandemic.
The whole pandemic, it wasn't one argument. Like we were just kind of communicating openly. And if it was an issue, we talked about it. It was just about food, or, you know, something basic like that. But it did bring like a lot of happiness to our marriage after the interview, and definitely after it aired. Cause we talked about it, we hugged it out, and we were like, wow, you know, that part is over. People get to kind of see. So, but I wasn't expecting, you know, the overwhelming positive emotions that other people had. But we continue to kind of go back through it and kind of piece things together in a good way. Like, wow, you know, what are we going to do now? If we can live through this, we can live through anything. But it's,
I think for us, well, for you guys, it was, you know, an interview for the show. But for us afterwards, it was like a little mini therapy session. Like we got so much off of our chest that will hit his incident, and then being able to listen to him without the intent to respond. Listening to him helped me a lot too, because I don't always do that. I always am quick to like figure out what is my response going to be to him when he opens up, which in return causes him to shut down.
Have you guys you talked about therapy in our conversation?
Yes.
So has that been a part of your life? Will it be? What do you think?
It will be.
It will be. We actually a couple of people who we know and we went to college and stuff with, who are now been licensed for years. They have reached out and DM'd us. So, but they're definitely making it known that it's no rush, you know, on our time. But the thought they just reached out to us was like, okay, you know what? They know how we are, so they know we're not going to rush to it. We're going to let it kind of be natural. But it's definitely down the pipeline for sure.
So another thing, okay, so a couple of folks who joined late asked, what was the incident? You guys experienced a very unexpected and unwarranted police raid that just kind of set you off on a, you know, how many years into marriage was this?
That was only 3.
3 years into marriage.
3.5.
3 years of marriage with 2 kids, and I didn't know at the time I was pregnant with my 3rd.
Right. And the other thing that you said, which I don't even know if we put it in, but just, now that we're talking about it, was how you guys were or have been for years, just kind of like, babies, business, work, just trying to grind. Or not even sometimes planned grind, sometimes like, oh, okay, we have another baby, and that can take out of communication, people always wonder how marriages can go on for years and you kind of look up and realize you aren't talking, or maybe aren't talking about the important things, but that's part of it. Is like Tommy and I have the same issue, I think, being married 5 years, but we got engaged after 6 months, married a year later, pregnant less than a year after that, parents, pregnant again, twins, you know what I mean? Like, you can look up and be like, oh, this is the beginning of our relationship now.
Well, that's kind of how ours, when we got married, I was pregnant 6 months after that. Then Josiah, when I had him, he was 6 months. I was already pregnant again. And then Jazara came,
2 years
2 years after Zayden. So it was like boom, 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 boom. And when you do that, your marriage is solely based on your kids.
Yeah.
And that's why I said in the episode, our 10-year was like a reset, because our kids were getting older, and we had a break. We got a chance to like sit and realize, like, wow, we've been focusing so much on the kids.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you felt this way, or I didn't even know you were going through this. And so when that happens, if you're not willing to like work through that part, that's eventually, in my opinion, what leads to divorce, because you don't have anything else to fall back on other than we just have these kids. Yeah. And that's how I felt like the path we were going on. It was like baby, nothing else, and then another baby. And then the communication just gets less and less over time.
Right. Would you say when you had your 10-year, what do you think in that moment? Like, I know what you mentioned in terms of how Joe's emotions came out that day, but like, what even sparked that?
He said something in the interview, I can't remember verbatim, but it was something like, I exposed him to different food, travel, and something. And he's never told me that. I think I told you guys that too. I was like, wow, you've never said that to me. Just hearing that, like, it was confirmation that I am someone that you married because you love me and because of all the other things that you mentioned, and not just because I was your baby mama.
One of the other things that I love about you guys, I was fascinated by the fact, look, as a person with 3 small children, just the fact that you can take any pictures at all of all of your children, let alone dress them, convince your husband to dress the same, everything that you do to create the Lewis show, right, was very impressive to me, especially as a mom who's just like, whoa. But I love learning kind of the how, and not just the how of that, but the how. You guys mentioned that it's important to you, not 2020, but that your kids are exposed to the world and that you travel. And one of the first things I asked you was like, how do you do all of this? And learning that, I know it's okay to say, I guess, because we did record it, but like that, Joe, you're working at 2 jobs, one of which at the airline, get the miles and the buddy passes and the things so that you guys can do all that. I see what Niecy knows said, because Leslie gets things done, and that is true. But Joe be coming in with the buddy passes so the family can see the world. And I was just so like impressed and like inspired by you all's commitment to giving us a glimpse. Thank you for that. But to showing your kids the world and working so hard to do it. So that's awesome.
It's a sacrifice, and it's all about, to me, I look at it as pre-planning. It's all temporary, but when we do things like that, we let's just say this 2020 right now. So we'll plan 2021 in December of 2020. And we'll have, with the hope that a pandemic or something like that will not happen. But, if everything is going the way it went prior to 2020, we have our year planned out. So we look forward to those particular trips,
Yeah.
getting our kids and things out, and it makes you kind of want to live because hey, in 3 months we'll be in Hawaii, and 2 years after that we'll be in LA, or or whatever. So.
Or we actually plan at the end of the year. That's one thing we do for New Year's. Like, where are we going next year?
Right.
What are 10 things that we want to do? And let's check off at least half of that. That's we do that every single year. And I know for me, like, I'm super goal oriented when it comes to that. I'm like, I got to make it happen. And we figure out ways like, how can he put in? How can I put in? And then we come together, and that's how it happens.
So the 2 jobs, it doesn't bother me. It's temporary. 1 or 2 weeks it'll be a little stressful, but once I'm off, it's just like whatever. And once we're gone, I don't even think about it. So doing it for 3 years now, it's so easy. They're long days, though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be gone 15, 16 hours, but then like the following week, I'm off for an entire week, both jobs. So. That's why I said it's just temporary the way I look at it.
And it gives you something to look forward to. You always have a goal.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to be extra inspired because Tommy, he wants us to travel. I get overwhelmed with just the 3 kids, so I'm feeding off of you guys right now. Do you guys, and we talked a little bit about this, but do you guys have date nights or dedicated time just the 2 of you?
Oh yeah. Absolutely, it's a must.
That's twice a month. That's at bare minimum. We try to do it twice a month. Our biggest thing is eating out.
Well, not lately with Zoe.
What is it like this year? What is your alone time?
It's pretty bad, honestly.
In the shower.
Yeah, in the shower. That's about it. Getting up at 4 in the morning and just once he's up playing and kicking it with him, but that's not alone. That's just either him and I or. He falls back to sleep, and we're both talking like 2 nights ago at 3:30 in the morning. Yeah. When she woke up to make a bottle, and then she's like, "I got an idea," and I'm like, "Damn, what time is it?"
That's not really a date, but
it's cute. I like it.
Yeah.
It's quiet time.
I always assume, like, I'm assuming that everyone knows who you guys are, but just give me like the number of kids, names, and ages, and then who watches the children. Somebody asked that.
Okay.
So we have a village. His parents are my parents. My parents are actually down the street from us. Number of kids, we have 5 kids.
And a dog.
And a dog. Oreo, so we have Zoe, he's 3 months. Zendaya is 5. Jazara is 7. Zayden is 9. And Josiah is 11.
Wow. Okay, and then the family's nearby.
So her parents are nearby. My parents are about 250 miles away.
Got it.
But they come up whenever we need
them. She comes up all the time. My mom,
son is amazing.
My aunts, everyone.
Yeah, it makes a difference because we don't have that. We don't have that nearby stuff.
It definitely does. We wouldn't have 5 if we didn't have help like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
It wouldn't be possible.
And how are you managing school right now?
Okay, let me say
with this in the morning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me say this just real quick.
I'm a teacher, so it's easy for me, but
it's not easy for me. When it started in March, it was extremely difficult. We're not there. We're nowhere near there. The school, it was extremely chaotic from late March to June once they got out. Our kids' school, so all 4 go to the same school. And they had that summer to kind of get it right.
Well, now they
now they do because Zendaya's in kindergarten. But they equipped all of our kids with the correct tools, like iPads, like earphones, everything that they need. They bring home boxes on a weekly basis. They even do a volunteer lunch pickup to where you go on Tuesdays and Thursdays and you get the kids' food for the 2 days. So the school has definitely stepped up and made it extremely helpful. It's just a little difficult that we're all still around one little area to do all of the work.
Yeah. But how do you 2 define roles in that?
We make a good team.
No, you guys are a really good team. I mean, I think that's when you have kids. I was listening to Michelle Obama's podcast recently. There's one episode about marriage, and she describes like the fact that kids, if your marriage is like a jar, I don't remember the exact analogy. If your marriage is like a jar of marbles or juice or whatever, kids are like shaking that jar up for like 2 straight minutes just to like mess everything up. And that's what it's like on your marriage. And my observation is those couples who like the roles are to just take care of business, right? Like we figure out what's best no matter who's dad, who's mom, whatever, are the folks that are like the, I don't want to say the least stressed, but just kind of have a little more sanity than others. All right, so this says, here's a good question. Wait, I want to ask this because a couple people have asked Leslie about how you do all this with these long nails.
Oh gosh. I needed to dig boogers out of his nose.
Listen, no judgment. Okay, I dig a lot of boogers. Up to 3 years old, I be digging boogers. So
Easy. I just
so somebody asked, let's see. First off, what made you decide to share the story specifically about the raid on the show?
To me, it was time for me to get it out of my system. It was time for me to get it out of my chest. And I held on to it for 9 years. And at this point, once you came over, it was like, you and your husband came over, it was like, it's a perfect opportunity to just let it go. You know? And don't get me wrong, Leslie knew about it, but there were details that I explained to the show that I didn't leave out. It was just like she lived it, so she kind of knew.
Yeah.
So when I went back into the details of everything, it was almost like an eye opener again. Like, wow, I forgot about that. That did happen because it wasn't just one day. It wasn't a 1 day raid. It was a 1 day raid, but then it carried on for 4 or 5 months later of just harassment.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's where the trauma and the depression came in. You know, they didn't just come in our house and just say, okay, we're taking your belongings and then that's it. No. It went on and it was prolonged for 5 months. That's where, and then as I thought about it and I came out of the depression, that's when I was like, wow, no wonder I was so, in this particular rut, because this lasted longer than I expected. It wasn't a 4-hour raid and that's it. Then I went on my merry way. It was none of that. But I didn't realize that inside of the depression, I had to figure that out once it was kind of over,
Which is often what happens, right? Like, obviously we're talking about something that anyone can see after the fact is traumatic, right? But half of us aren't even looking at 2020 and going, maybe I should talk to somebody, right? Because there's a lot of experiences that happen, sometimes to us, sometimes to folks that we love, that we don't deal with. We just push things down. And so the importance of just paying attention and just recognizing like how you feel and how you're relating to your loved ones, right? It's just important that we prioritize our peace, and that we pay attention to ourselves.
I think before you guys came to, we had a quick conversation. We were like, what are we going to talk about? Like nothing was rehearsed. We didn't talk into detail like how much we're going to share or anything like that. But afterwards, it was important to share too because of our platform that we have. And we wanted people to know a little bit more about us, because you just see us, you see this family, you see coordinated outfits, but there's more to us than that. There's also more to us that we've gone through to lead to that point. So I don't want people to think, oh, she has a perfect family and he's a good husband and the kids, and that it was a whole process that we went through to get to that point. And so I think that was, for me, important to share so people can see another side of us.
Yep. And I'm grateful very much. I think I appreciate you sharing that with me and Tommy, and letting us, trusting us to share that with the world. Everyone keeps asking for you to share your background and how and why you started the Lewis Show and coordinating of the outfits.
Oh, Lord. My background, I've been a preschool teacher and a director for 18 years. But my heart was always in fashion. But I got the itch when I went on tour with Big Frida. and I was his stylist behind the scenes for about 2.5 years. And my sister was his producer and manager for his reality show. I started doing that, and then I kind of fell off and went and did the vlogging thing by myself. But then I realized that that wasn't going anywhere because everybody was doing it.
For 6 years.
For 6 years. Thank you. And
Yeah.
yeah, because he would take my pictures
Right.
on my lunch break. And one day, I think it was the Adidas, right?
Mm-hmm.
I found matching Adidas sweatsuits, and I found one for the dog. And I was like, oh, let's just take family pictures to see how it would go. And the wall is right there, so we just did it, and it went viral.
Mm-hmm.
And then there, I was like, ooh, I think I might be onto something. Like, what if I incorporated my family into all of these different looks? But I didn't want it to be matchy because that wasn't us. It didn't represent who we were individually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's how I got started. And yeah.
2012 is when she started working with Big Frida up until
2012.
I think it might have been 2011 to 13.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was like 2012 to 18 is when she was just solo. And then she changed it to the Lewis show in January of 2018. And we kind of we took off from there.
I got pregnant after that Ray stuff. When I found out I was pregnant with Jazara, that's when I decided to stop with Big Frida. And then I went back to working at the daycare once he quit the jail.
So, Joe, you mentioned that saying I love you is not something you do a lot.
Yeah.
Leslie hinted at the fact that she would appreciate it more. So where are we with that?
Oh, I say it a lot more than what I used to. I'll be honest. And for those of you that may have not looked at the show, I was the type of guy who would say I love you on December 31st and January 1st the following year. That was just me. But
he's not lying either.
I'll tell you, January 1 and December 31st, and you knew you were good for the whole year. But, and I'm making a joke about it, but it's actually true.
Yeah.
I just figured if I tell you once, then you should know for the rest of the year that I love you, and I'm still doing everything I can to show that I love you, but I don't say it enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now, reflecting on that, I'm up to at least 3 or 4 times a month. So it's a start.
Somebody said that's it.
Yeah, that's a start.
I love it.
It's always there. It's just that the expression is getting better.
Mm-hmm.
But this, let me correct that too. This was 9 years ago. We're not talking about right now. So.
Yeah. And even experiencing that, because look, there's no look. I always say we don't judge our couples. Like Cody and Tommy, we not the people in the comments, right? The people in the comments, they different. But from my perspective, like we're human. Like we all come from different environments and different experiences and like different ways of operating. So for you, Leslie, especially because y'all dated, y'all got married, you kind of knew what you were getting in. You knew that wasn't his jam. Y'all need to do something.
No, I'm gonna get this pacifier really quick.
Okay. So how have you communicated that need and adjusted to, not getting that need met at times, and then how he's improved?
It went in and out. I only heard part of the question.
So how did you, communicate that need for more verbal affection and also adjust to meeting him somewhere in, between where he's comfortable and where you're comfortable?
Well, I just tell him, and I keep telling him, and I keep telling him, and I'm going to keep telling him what I want and what I need.
Mm-hmm.
But I love him without any conditions, right? I have expectations, but I know he may not, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
He loves
his heart.
What was that?
You know his heart.
Yeah, exactly. I know that he's for me, and I know that he loves me. The thing is that I just want him to show it more, and that's what I expressed on the show. And he doesn't have to say it every day. I prefer the action behind the words more, but I think I have the utmost patience with Joe, and a lot of his friends will often tell me, like, you can handle him because he's different, right? Like, he's a different kind of dude, and it takes a special kind of woman, and you are that woman that, you know, he needed to bring out certain things. But I always knew they were there. I just had to, you know, have patience for him, and when he was ready, then it came out.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Another thing I love is hearing you guys talk about each other. So will you, before we just sign off here, will you tell me your favorite thing about the other?
You and these questions, you be making me clam up.
And now you got the wine, so make it good, Leslie. Make it good.
You go first.
She's an overachiever. She'll push me to the limit to where even when I'm tired, she's still trying to achieve. It's like we'll accomplish one goal and it's like on to the next. But she's on to the next before we even accomplish that one particular goal, because she's already had it in her mind that goal will be accomplished.
Right.
So when it comes to motivating me and continuing to push me to think bigger, that's what I love about her for sure, because it makes me think brighter and bigger as well. And she pushes me to levels I thought that I couldn't get to, and I wouldn't be able to get to on my own.
If I had a mic, I would have dropped.
Mic drop.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I love the way that he is a father to the kids. He's a lifelong partner for me and them. And see, you making me. Now you're gonna make me cry. The wine and the emotions, I can't do it. No, he's Joe's a good guy. He's a really, really good guy, and I love how you are patient with me and you deal with my attitude and my craziness and my and my hormones and everything else. Like he's for me. That's it.
I love it.
Being pregnant, no hormones. So if it wasn't for the kids, I wish she could be pregnant forever. She don't get any hormones at all. So
it wasn't for
oh my God.
I don't think I do either, but Tommy definitely would disagree. Well, I absolutely appreciate you guys for sharing with us. I think that I love that you are a social media family, but also very, very real and very honest about like pulling back the curtain and just being like, this is us. So I'm grateful to know you. I'm grateful that we did an interview before COVID. And and so I look forward to being one of your first clients when you come out here and coordinate my whole life, because I need it. Okay. And yeah, I appreciate y'all very much.
Thank you. We appreciate you too.
Thank you very much.
All right, cool guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
I'm done, but here.
Cheers.